Bum, bum, bum. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of TXR, a place to pop a cold one, relax, and just talk games. Of course, I'm your host, YouTube's favorite intergalactic badass, Invader, and me and the panel are just itching to talk about all kinds of gaming news and rumors. But hey, before we begin, definitely check out our website, txrpodcast.com, to keep up to date on all things show related. Thanks everyone who's already here, popped in, and now for the intros. First, I would like to introduce our guest from Saltiest Gaming Podcast, Hyena Den. How are you doing, bud?
I am doing really well. Thanks for having me on TXR. It's awesome to be here. Really awesome to be here.
Well,
Welcome,
of
welcome.
course. Welcome, my friend. Can't wait to get your opinions on all the topics today. All right. Megatron, how's your weekend been, bud?
Weekend has been busy but fun, hanging out with the fam as usual. And looking forward to doing the show tonight. Welcome, Hyena.
Of course. Tim, keeping out of trouble today?
Trying. Yeah, no, last week, unfortunately, we were trying to get the show together. Some stuff came up. We're going to try to always be on time on Sunday. Obviously, if some things come up, we'll come up on Monday. But last week, something um, pretty unforeseen happened, and we just thought better of it. I knew Danny and Southbound and Megatron were just in LA. They were traveling, so but other than that, happy to be here and moving forward. Being here every Sunday with the crew, so we can talk about that Xbox roundtable.
Of course. And Southbound, are you still hungover from drinking with Phil and Megatron from the weekend before?
Nah, but the next day I was pretty done for though. I was like one over crap. You could ask Megatron. Everyone looked at me like, "You're not
Yeah,
like
it was a rough,
breathing,
it
are
was a
you?"
rough night.
Was that the
rough
night that
morning.
we talked? Was that the night that you were at the airport? You were like, I could do it from the
No,
from the
no, no, no.
panel.
That was the day before. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
was in bad shape. Like 10 or 15 too many tequila shots. It was.
Never
It
such
was.
a thing as too many tequila shots.
Well, the
Wow.
next day,
Once
at
you
the
go into
time,
double
I'd
digits,
agree
it
with you,
makes a
but the next
difference.
day it was bad.
Was it a drink to each executive? Like, because I'm sure that you were hanging out with. I heard you were hanging out with some big wigs.
Nah, well, we had drinks with a couple drinks with some big guys, but no, when we went out and had all the tequila,
It was
it was
just
just
us.
kind
Oh,
of
you
just
guys
us.
were out by
Yeah,
yourself? Oh, okay.
yeah, pretty much.
All right. No, sounds like a great time, guys. Now, moving on to our first topic of the evening. And you know what, guys? Personally, I try to stay away from sites like Kotaku, as I find a lot of their articles to be a little, well, subpar some of the time. But however, this past week, an article was dropped by Jason Schreier, who he compiled an absolute bombshell of a story regarding BioWare's Anthem development and just the utter mismanagement that went on at the studio. Now, supposedly, he interviewed 19 employees, past and present, and they laid out the big issues of what happened to Anthem and BioWare as the whole story unfolded. Guys, what are your thoughts on the matter? Do you feel BioWare just was a total unmanaged mess? For one, the Frostbite engine, it was terrible to work with. They had to basically start from scratch with it, and a whole bunch of other things. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. You know what? Because I read the rebuttal, that the inside memo, whatever, that Casey Hudson sent to everybody at BioWare, and he seemed pretty brokenhearted about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, listen, that game was in development for how many years? 7 years. Of
Yeah.
course, there's gonna be for a game to
Crazy.
be in that for that long. Of course, there's gonna be ups and downs and mismanagement and feelings hurt and misdirection. A game, I mean, a total like game that should be going smoothly should take about 4 years. But you're talking about an extra 3 years to kind of figure out what they're doing. Yeah, it makes complete sense that they were like chickens with the head cut off.
Well, it was in pre-production for 5 years. Like, that's the concept period. They were only in like actual full production for like the latter year and a half.
It's sad to hear about all of that, man. I mean, I'll go on the surface of things. When they presented it at E3, what was it? What, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I was blown away, and to see where it is now and to hear everything that's going on, it's just like it's like we've heard it before. I don't know. I mean, when I play the game, I enjoy for what I played with it, but when the Division came out, I kind of just stopped. But I don't know. I mean, I wonder if they could even save it, or if it's even worth saving at this point.
It's a good question.
Well, they do have like updates planned. They're going with this whole games as a service thing, but is there enough content going through? Because they keep doing these patches and updates, but then other things get majorly screwed up. You had this situation where there was this oddity for loot drops. People are actually liking what they were getting, and then they take it out a few hours later, and then people who were, getting these loot where they were like upset because BioWare had readjusted it, and it just seems like whenever they try and correct something, they do two other things wrong, and it's just really unfortunate that we're at this point now with the game. It's only been out for what, like 2 months?
Yeah.
Like
it seems like it's already dead now, and it sucks because the game was actually pretty fun, and I enjoyed a lot of it. But I hadn't seen the bugs that a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you heard about the one where it was actually breaking PlayStations.
Yeah, PlayStation.
So yeah, that's crazy. And now if I had a PlayStation, all of a sudden I went to play a game and it just like pretty much, blew up, I'd be pissed.
Oh, totally.
I've heard people had to like damn near factory reset their PlayStations because of it.
Yeah, it's had its share of issues. My opinion is that this game was a victim of its model, the model that they were trying to produce, which is kind of like, I guess, Destiny. It's the same type of thing. And I think that that's probably where the developmental time got hung up, because you had Destiny come out. Let's do Destiny, just the clone. Now the first Destiny came out, and it was met with a lot of bad reviews, a lot of problems. But you know what? That game was wildly successful. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then you had the Destiny 2 that came out, which is the same model, and it's definitely not as successful as the first one. You even have Bungie and Activision jumping out of the contract. Again, I really feel like the model that they're pushing, that this Destiny 2 Destiny model and their model, I don't even know if they do raids in Anthem, but I'm going to be completely frank about it. The model itself, to me, sucks. It was interesting with the first Destiny, but I don't feel like it doesn't offer you the fulfillment of a full game where you're playing a single player and you're building your character and you're playing a full 30 hours. The what you play is segmented. And it depends on who you're playing with, what level they are. You can get completely leveled up immediately if you go with higher levels, which kind of takes the fun away. So that's where I find the problem is basically with the model, and that's where it became a problem, because the model itself really isn't conducive, or it's very hard to make a good game using that type of model and that type of concept. As far as the graphics and everything, it's state of the art, but again, the technical portion of bricking PS4s knocking out. Xboxes, it was the same thing. It's just been a complete mess. And I don't think BioWare really, if you told me they were making this type of game to begin with, I would think it's off. I don't think they're the right developer for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's the way it morphed into itself, and they try to be something that they weren't. And because of the market and because of, games like Destiny, and
Mm-hmm.
that herein lied the problem. So for me, um, I don't think they're a bad dev. I just think they just need to reassess, and I don't think it's the end of the world that they tried to do what they did, but it failed. Jason uncovered a lot of things with his article, but every the developmental process isn't going to always be great. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
problems, and it is what it is. In my opinion, it was more of a problem with the market condition and what they were trying to build, the type of game they were trying to build, than the
Well,
developers
if you read
themselves.
the article, they said it. Bioware's used to their little quote unquote Bioware magic that's supposed to come together in the last 6 months before the game comes out. And then you seen what happened to Mass Effect, how everybody just took a dump on that. And then with this I mean, the expectations were so high for it. And when it come out, it was like, wow, this is a really good game. And then there was no substance to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like you said, Destiny all over again. So, I'm gonna have to grind this forever for what? Just so I could build some guns, or
Well,
like.
what's crazy is they weren't even allowed to talk about, like, mention the D word Destiny apparently at the studio. Maybe compare it to, like, apparently
Oh,
Diablo
come on!
3.
Everybody knew there was Destiny,
Well,
quote
of
unquote,
course.
Destiny killer.
Of course, but it's like everybody was asking the management, what is this game? And they're like, oh, hey, the whole motto was just to build something new. And yeah, they kind of ended with something very similar to Destiny in the end, didn't they? At least on the
Yeah, for sure.
surface, which is, it's bizarre because they are such a narrative focused studio. And with all these interconnecting, branching story arcs, and that's what was so wanting in the game. There wasn't very much there.
100%.
So it was so bizarre. Like, that's what people are scratching their head at. The
Well,
content itself.
listen. That's the potential problem that if Microsoft, with all their studio undertakings. Now, Phil is very specific on this. He says that he's not going to get involved, even if Obsidian wanted to make a PC game only. He's not going to get involved. He's going to leave it up to the developers. Now, that doesn't mean that they probably would make a console because it's pretty much all in one now. But he is basically saying, I'm going to be hands off, let the studios run the way they run. Where here you have EA, and they're the people at the table that are like, hey, let's do something to make money. When when you look at EA games and 2K and stuff like that, a lot of, not 2K, but just the way that their models of their games, it's about making money, and I think that they thought this was the right way to go. But it wasn't. If they had made this a traditional single player story driven game with the type of engine that they're using, with the type of visuals, I think we would have a lot more people that are much happier with the game. And if they could have built some type of multiplayer element that wouldn't take 3 years to build, they could have had themselves a really nice game. I still have full confidence in BioWare, to be honest. But I just think that the situation that they're in is not working with EA, and I wouldn't be surprised if something happens there.
Well, yeah, I really wouldn't want a
it seems like a
visceral
lot of their
situation.
it seems like a lot of their employees are jumping ship. They're like, this is just their crunch time, and you heard about all the depression and anxiety over the games,
Yeah.
and obviously you never want a hostile working environment. So for
Well,
these people,
they had like really, really, like, people who had been there for a long time at the main Bioware studio in Edmonton just jumped ship through development because it was too much from what it seems. And from key departments too, lead animation, lead designer, lead art director, like it was kind of a mess. Like when you see like such key figures jumping ship and then they had to like get new people for these positions and then they leave their mark on the game because they take it in new directions.
Right. And part of that is like, listen, if you could see a sinking ship. If you're a developer on Crackdown, let's just say Crackdown 3, you kind of know 4 years in, like last year, the game is never going to set the world on fire. It's not most likely it's not going to be successful. You kind of know where the game's going. And I think that what happened here, it was the same type of thing. Like they kind of knew, like this is not going. This model's not working. This is not us. We're about making games with thousands of hours of voice acting and asking questions and answering and taking different paths and this and stuff. And then you're going to a Destiny model. And I find it funny that they said, "Oh, we can't talk about Destiny," because there's a lot of truth to it. It was basically somewhat of a Destiny clone, and they wanted to get that Destiny success. And unfortunately, it kind of even dried up for Bungie on the second one, and now they're just going into something where it's even more saturated, and it's over with. Like I said, if they were the first, if they were the first to hit the market, I think that the game, or with the type of Destiny model, if it hit the market, I think the game would have been afforded a lot more than it is now, because now it's kind of oversaturated. We know it's the type of model it is and what it is about. And it was just too comparable, in my opinion, to Destiny.
Well, and I got a question. I want everybody's opinion on this. Do you think that it was a mandate from EA, brought down? Because obviously Respawn had to do, Apex, they had to do their free-to-play game, and now, they were like, EA's like, well, we got to have a Destiny type game. So that's when, with Anthem, they decided, that's going to be our Destiny game. And it was just basically from the publisher was like, it was a mandate. You guys have to do this.
I wouldn't know. Maybe possibly if they want to make money, right? I mean,
well,
yes, I think 100% that went on.
The thing is, like, they had 7 years to produce something, and reading the article, they pretty much had free reign to do whatever from the sounds of it. Just the Bioware management didn't really steer the developers in a clear way. And then EA, you had what's his face, Patrick Sutherland, I think. He went to go see the game, and he was like, "What is this? This is garbage." And then a couple of months later, he goes back and they reintroduce flying, and he's like, "Oh man, this rocks!" And then that's basically the demo that they used to actually show off the game. So
it was different enough. I think it was different enough. You got flying, you're flying underwater, you got your javelin, the different javelin classes, how you upgrade your javelin. I'm disappointed with it.
But the thing is, they had to take that out. They took it out at first, and then you had to for the designers to have to go around that. It takes a long time to actually conform to the restrictions when you're designing a game. Like when you introduce flying, so on, so forth. Like the mission design just goes out the window.
From what I heard, and this is a rumor, and this was something that is hearsay, so let's take it with a grain of salt. But considering the source, I would say it's 100% true. I heard that before E3, now they were talking about closing the show. Remember in 2000, I believe it was 16 or 17. They were talking about where they going to close the show was, and that Microsoft actually saw the demo that I guess that Sutherland saw with the flying. And they were absolutely floored with the game. They were like, "Oh my God, we need this game. We need to market this game. We need to have this game." So they were on board 100%. And as you know, they got the marketing, but the game just kind of fell flat. I mean, from somebody myself, and I know I've spoken a lot on the subject. I'd like to hear other people's like Hyena what he thinks. Um, you know, but I was so amped for it. And then when it came out and I learned what it was about and what it all was, it was exactly what I feared it was like it could be. And I still haven't even bought the game. And I buy everything.
Do you think the hype was too high?
It didn't help.
No, I don't think so. The game looked great at E3. You're flying around in this badass javelin.
No,
Why not?
no. But
Why
what
not
I mean
get
is,
it?
was the hype? Was it just expected to be
different.
so much better than it was? That, like it couldn't live up to the hype.
Who knows, man? I don't know. Beats me.
I honestly, like I said, I really think that the problem is that it didn't have an identity. It's still, from what I've heard, is you know I've watched people play, I've watched Mike play online. It's just hey, go to this point, fight a monster, gain points, get loot, go to the next one. And one of the problem I find with these games with loots is that they're the game's funner when you're more generous with the loot, but the developers are so stingy with the loot that turns people off too. If I was a developer, I would give away I'd give away the ballpark, and I think that sometimes when they've done that, or like even when they have glitches, it gets people playing. So I think that the pace of the game or the way you gather things is not good. And obviously the game, honestly, I think that we're not going to hear much of it because it doesn't sound like it's doing well at all. And what happened with Mass Effect? It wasn't Mass Effect 3 supposed to get DLC and all this stuff.
Andromeda.
Andromeda, it never happened. So I fear that that's going to be the same thing with Anthem. I mean, it doesn't seem to be looking like it's doing well, and that's sad. I mean, there was one article that it made 300 million or something, or grossed that, but I don't know the ins and the outs, or if that really it doesn't seem like it's been a success. Not even close to when Destiny came out, it was a huge success.
Hey, have they given you any numbers to say how many people are still playing as of today, or is it just has it been just a complete drop off? Like, has anyone heard anything yet? Or
I don't know anything personally about numbers, guys. I don't know if anybody else can fill us in the chat about numbers, but if you could, that'd be nice. Anybody else have anything to say on the topic? Otherwise, we'll move on. Hyena Den, were you interested in Anthem at all, playing it?
No, Anthem, the style of game that Anthem isn't something I'm particularly interested in. I didn't pick up Destiny, didn't pick up Anthem, obviously. I think the closest game that I played in succession for year on year was the Borderlands series, and that was the one thing that actually that easily got me into their games. But with this whole article from Jason Schreier and Kotaku is interesting because to me it looks like it's a clash between the publisher and the developer. And I this is one of those scenarios where I don't actually blame EA mostly here. I think a lot of the blame goes to BioWare. And my reasoning behind this is a lot of people say their favorite BioWare games, the people that worked on them in the past, aren't at that studio anymore, or at least most of them aren't. So you might have a situation where they're struggling to find their own identity, and with that comes a lot of collision between the people in that studio where they want one thing and then they want something else the day after. And like we read in their article, flying was in it, and then it wasn't, and then it was again, and there was just a lot of back and forth with this studio. And I think more than anything, it's a struggle of them trying to find their own identity of what they want to be, for the foreseeable future. And I don't know if that's something that they can actually fix with EA. They are partially to blame because I don't think them forcing Frostbite onto this game is acceptable, because Frostbite. So Frostbite, to me, I do have a bias towards Frostbite. I think the games that they work very well with are extremely gorgeous games. Nobody can tell me that the Battlefield series isn't gorgeous. You know, Frostbite works well with Battlefield. It has worked well with FIFA and Madden, and it has worked well with the Need for Speed series. But with RPGs, that's something that doesn't really jive well with the engine. And I think maybe if they went with something like Unreal or even Unity, which is sad to say, they might have had a better time with some of the things they wanted to implement into their game. And again, it's a very interesting article. I do think that them being in pre-production for almost, what was it, 6-7 years is absolutely ridiculous for any studio. The most you'll see for, you know, a lot of these games, most people are only in pre-production for 1.5 2 years at max. 6-7 years, that's way too long. So that signifies to me that they didn't know what they wanted for this. And when it comes to Bioware, I enjoyed Mass Effect 1. I didn't play any of their games after Mass Effect 1 for, you know, a multitude of reasons. But I do love RPGs, and if they can go back to that, that would make me very happy as a gamer. But I don't know if they ever are going to, because it seems like there's an identity problem with that studio.
Absolutely. And, you know, they have a new Witcher game supposedly in the works. Maybe they announced that too early. We'll see. Honestly, guys, I hope that, you know, BioWare gets their stuff together. I hope EA gives them more free reins going forward. I don't know. I hate to be a bit of a pessimist, but I just really don't see that happening. Especially if they use Frostbite. We'll just see going forward. I wish them the best. They have some really talented developers there, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. It's just a shame. But moving on to some other pretty big and not so great news, and of course relating to EA, they have recently stated that it's laid off 350 employees, and these are mostly from marketing and publishing departments. From what seemed to be from Japan and Russia arms of the company. And of course, this comes after a slew of rocky months for EA. Last month, or maybe 2 months ago, they laid off a quarter of Australian studio Fire Monkeys. Anthem, obviously, as we just stated, isn't really doing all that great. And back in January, EA canceled a single-player Star Wars game by EA Vancouver. Guys, what are your thoughts on this? Is EA like on a bit of a downward spiral right now?
Well, I guess
anybody.
Nobody wants to talk about the same time.
I hope they all find jobs, man. I mean,
yeah, that's the most heartbreaking part is people losing jobs. I mean, you never want to hear about people not being able to feed their family, regardless.
Gotta pay those bills,
where they're at, you know, and you know, obviously, you know, EA's trimming the fat, trying to, you know, balance their sheets or whatever. But yeah, it's always unfortunate when people lose their jobs.
And when it comes to marketing, though, you know, some of these guys are picked up as subcontractors, and isn't that like a common thing? You know, you have a new game that's coming out.
Somewhat. But they just seem to be completely closing up shop in some areas like Japan and Russia, for example. They kind of seem consolidating in certain areas. I don't know, whenever you hear about studios closing, yeah, you know, it does suck. And you can understand from a company's perspective too, wanting to like rebalance the budgets of certain aspects of it and refocus on areas that are doing better. Obviously, you have Apex Legends, which was free to play, and that's been doing amazing for them, competing with Fortnite. So that is obviously a bright spot in their lineup right now, which is very surprising. It just kind of came out of nowhere. But should we be worried about other studios closing? Obviously, they closed Visceral a couple of years ago without really any word.
I mean, not to go over the last subject, but I do think
Mhm.
BioWare is in pretty uncharted waters as far as that. They supposedly have a game coming. If that game comes and it doesn't do well, I think they're in trouble. I don't think EA is going to be, patient. They're a big company, and they are looking to make money and not lose money. And I think Anthem was a big hit. They kind of got some good luck, a shot in the arm with Apex. I don't know. I haven't been following that. I don't know if it's outpacing Fortnite or if Fortnite took over back again. But they obviously have a tremendous success with Apex.
Mhm.
But I feel that BioWare is definitely in trouble, and if they don't produce or they keep hitting these bumps in the road, there will be cuts, there will be developers cut, there will be guys fired. There's no doubt.
Well, they did close one of the Bioware studios technically with what was it, the studio in Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. They closed that right after Andromeda, or they shift people over to another studio.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, that was a while ago.
Because that's why they canceled the DLC.
That was the team that was working on the DLC for Andromeda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they kind of just scrapped it.
Yeah, like again, not to go over the same topic, but yeah, you kind of have to bring up BioWare again, because it's like they were, as some people from the studio had stated to Jason Schreier, they kind of got lucky with Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect Andromeda. Well, we all know what happened there, and now Anthem. So, how long will EA keep them afloat, right?
How would you guys feel if they made Anthem a free to play? Despite people already spending the $60.
I think they would get a backlash from people that bought it. Yeah,
that'd be bad, especially when you had a couple of million people buy it already. That would be. Well, there was even rumors about Fallout 76 going free to play, and people were in an uproar about that. Just a rumor alone.
Maybe kind of knock it in the Game Pass. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe something.
Well, they might, especially with the relationship with Microsoft and the marketing rights. So you never know how they would swing things, right? But
I think the old guard Microsoft wouldn't work with this. I do think that like the new guard Microsoft, which is going on with the Xbox Game Pass studios, I think that they would work well with somebody like BioWare. I honestly, Hyena Den made some great points.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see EA being a problem here. Like, I do think that they are going to push their, what they want. And I just am a believer of seeing what happened with like a lot of Xbox studios and with Xbox. I just think you're better off letting the developer kind of do what they want and not really put any restrictions and all this type of stuff over their heads. I just don't think it works. And I think in the case of BioWare right now, they're almost at a point where I don't think that they have their next game, trying to find their identity and that type of stuff is it's going to be critical for them, because if they have another bomb or they have a game that just has issues and just goes by and nobody buys, they're in a lot of trouble, and I would hate to see them go, because they are a great developer.
Absolutely.
Hey, Microsoft, buy low once they hit unless they pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, come on over."
EA would not sell BioWare. I'm sorry. I mean, you made a good point though, buying low.
It's just
They would just let it go defunct. That's my opinion. It's just like they would split it up and they would lay people off. What is
Well,
that?
well, at this point, you can go ahead and just buy the talent that worked there instead of having to buy the title.
Anyone? Hello.
Well, we lost. What did we lose?
He'll be back. I think he's just having some
Hyena.
internet issues at the moment, but he'll be back. Well, on that note, I think we'll move on to another topic. Oh, and there's Hyena Den.
Sorry about that.
No problem, but we're just going to move on to another topic. And hey, guys, as we know, it's April, and that means new April games with gold. And it's a very interesting lineup for Xbox One games. There's Technomancer. And then we got Outcast, a cult classic remake, the original Xbox Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Xbox 360 game Ghost Recon 2. To me, it's a pretty good month for Xbox Gold owners. Guys, how do you feel about this lineup? Do you think it's pretty satisfactory?
Looks good. I'm looking forward to playing Ghost Recon. I've never played that one. So that's about the only game that's on my list.
Yeah, I'm not really jazzed about this lineup. It's games I've already played or have, and it really pisses you off when you buy a game and then 2 months later it's in Game Pass or Game with Gold, and you're like, damn it, why not just wait? So.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't mind it that much. I haven't tried Technomancer out, but it looks like a pretty neat RPG, sci-fi. Outcast, I have no idea, but the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, I mean, that's a gem right there, even if it is an OG Xbox game. Where's that noise coming from?
That is Megatron, and reset your mic.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I felt like it was a mediocre month, but the star of the show is Star Wars Battlefront 2. I mean, even though it's an OG Xbox game, it is enhanced. It is almost 4K or very close to it. I think it's 1960 or something like that, and it's a good game. So, it's not a great month. I kind of feel like the games for gold, we've spoke about this before, kind of gets overlooked, or when Xbox is looking to add games for free, they look, or at a subscription, they look to Game Pass first.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the feeling that it's like that now. So the quality, they get 4 games compared to 2 of the competition, but I would like the quality to be a little bit better, to be honest.
Yeah, and they do, even though I do like Battlefront 2 a lot, it is interesting that they do keep dropping in the OG Xbox games now. That seems to be like a standard thing. Ghost Recon 2 is pretty good, but again, it's a much older game. I don't know, Technomancer, I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like too bad. Outcast, not too shabby, really. I don't know, I don't mind this list, to be honest with you guys, but could they have done a better job? Yes. They definitely could, especially, and then when you make those comments about Game Pass, Tim, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really feel like they're trying as much as they could at this point. And even so, if you look at PlayStation Plus as well, this month they have they're down to 2 games now, and they're offering Conan Exiles and The Surge, which are, well, pretty decent games in my opinion. Who do you guys feel did a better job with the free games, Xbox or PlayStation?
Probably PlayStation. I mean, I'll go unpopular, but I'll say PlayStation this year or this month.
Yeah, I mean, The Surge, from what I understand, is like a Souls-like game and sci-fi, and it definitely has a strong following. I know a dedicated bunch of people who talk about that game. And Conan Exiles, I see people posting pictures of that game pretty often too. Well, at least they did in the beginning, anyways.
Oh yeah, posting the nude pictures. That's what I do.
Yeah. Hyena Den, how do you feel about the games with gold this month?
So honestly, all of my attention's towards Game Pass. I more often than not, I don't even look at games with gold anymore. With this month, the only game I would probably, I still think with games with gold, especially with the backwards compatible stuff, I think they're worth picking up because I think I'm right in saying that if you download the OG Xbox ones, they're free to keep forever in your
Yes, I
library.
believe 100%.
So like it doesn't hurt to actually download those specifically. But the only game that I care about in that entire lineup is Battlefront 2 because I enjoyed that back way back in the day. Ghost Recon might be interesting, but everything else I'm just like, eh. With PlayStation, I think it's like it's a 50-50 lineup because I don't actually think Conan is a very good game. My dad picked it up, and I've been watching him play it these last few days on his PlayStation 4. And every time I walk into his room, I just look at that game and I'm like, what is this?
Hopefully he's put some clothes on his characters. And it's not a cold day in the game. But yeah, you know, Xbox could do better, guys, in my opinion. Like it's an okay month, but they could do better with what they have. But we're gonna move on to another topic. And really it's an interesting rumor, this one. A prominent Microsoft leaker teased a possible addition coming to subscriptions for Xbox, calling it Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And it would combine Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass into a single subscription. Now, no word on pricing, but it would be assumed that you'd probably save a bit from this combination.
$14.99.
No, yeah, it said $15.99. That was
really?
$14.99.
Yeah.
$14.99.
Oh, $14.99. Oh, that was $15.99. Yeah, so basically $15.
Oh, okay, okay. So, what's your guys' take on this? Is a good step combining them?
Are you saving any money though? Or is it come out the same?
It comes out the same, and that's, you know, I guess I'll give my take on it. It's the same. Previewers or people that are in the preview program that want to try it out, it's $1 a month. Now this, I believe, there's a little bit of information left out of this Xbox Ultimate. I think it's included. This is me going out on a limb. xCloud functionality is tied into it. So for the Xbox Live Ultimate, you will get functionality to, use your game and play your games and incorporate xCloud. I do think that xCloud is probably going to be included with Xbox Live somehow. And that'll be the pricing on it. I'm not sure. I've heard different things. I've heard they definitely will have a pay model, but I'm pretty strong. I pretty strongly feel that Xbox Ultimate will be the inclusion of xCloud, and that's the missing link. Because first things first, the red flag for me. Why would you need an insider to test the price change? That's basically the same as what you would get if you bought it yearly, if you bought both of them yearly. And then second is, if it's going to be Ultimate usually in standard includes everything. So that to me is going to signify that xCloud is going to be included with this. And I really hope that's the case, because I think if they have that, that's a completely a fantastic deal. I think that's a real fair deal.
Really quick, guys. Is that my mic? You guys still hear something, or I can't tell?
We hear something, but
Sounds like
a bee.
using a weed whacker.
That might be me. One of the neighbors is weed eating. I was wondering if you guys could hear that. I was like, is that loud or what?
Just a little. But for those of you guys with Game Pass, like Hyena Den, would you be interested in a service like this that just basically encompassed everything all in one?
I think the simplification of this stuff does help out, but like Tim Dog said, I think xCloud is one of the missing links with this that's not being talked about. I'm interested to see if because we've heard of the monthly price. I want to know what the yearly price of it is and if there's any savings there, because so if you multiply, the monthly, it comes out at the same price as if
Right.
you were to do both of them for the year. It's like $180 or something like that. So I wonder if they do it, if they have a yearly bundle and there is savings there, because that's not being talked about at all. If there is, even if it's like $20, $30, I think that a lot more people would be interested in that. But yeah, like for me, I usually get a lot of my Game Pass and Gold from Microsoft Rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It definitely seems like an interesting idea, especially if xCloud is a part of the entire bundle. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see and wait for more information regarding this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, we'll see what happens there. It's an interesting leak. But moving on to other news, and recently some very spicy news here. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was released, and hey, it's been getting some very positive talk and reviews just across the board. And it seems like it's a game that's very well liked at this point. However, there's been a few gaming journalist opinion articles popping up about how Sekiro needs to respect its players and add an easy mode. Guys, how do you feel about this? Should games automatically have easy modes in them? Or should we just go by the developer's vision for the game?
Well, you can't. There's not one answer for every game. Every game is different. So I think this game. Now, don't get me wrong. I've never played it, and I'm not. I'm not attracted to like torture games where you're playing for 5 hours just to beat 10% of the game, and it's just you die 1,000 times for it. Now, hey, most people they like it. They're up for the challenge and everything else. Now that doesn't mean that I want an easy mode. That no, I demand it because I really like this game. I want to beat it, so I can't beat it in this current incarnation. So I want them to dumb it down for me. No, that's not how they wanted to make it. They wanted to make a tough game. So how are we supposed to like question their vision and just assume that they want to make it easy for the average player to beat?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, I can't say because I haven't played the game personally, but a lot of people are attached to these kinds of games. These, like the developer from Software, they developed the Dark Souls series, Demon Souls, and their games are kind of known for that too. You have to really get into them a different way. You have to really learn from your experiences in the game and, well, die a lot from that. um,
Listen, I understand when people say every game should be accessible to everyone, but the fact is, in this case, with this developer, this is what they do. They make very tough games, and there really shouldn't be anybody to tell them, well, you have to have an easy mode. I don't think that type of, checks and balances is needed on developers. I think there's plenty of other games. I'm like South. I don't have a use for the torture type game. I'm never going to touch it. I'm never going to touch Demon Souls. But I respect 100% that the game is made that way. It is the developers' vision to do that. There are enough games that are easy enough. Once we start telling, in my opinion, developers what they have to do and put restrictions on them, you get into some unwanted scenarios. So I'm totally against telling them that they have to make the game accessible.
Well, my perspective, yeah, let the dev make the game, but if the numbers aren't showing that they're buying the game, or people are being afraid to even try out the game, then maybe it could possibly be an option to just say, hey, we'll put like a Dark Souls light option in the game where you can, you know, try it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Some
but
people may.
people are acting like they're really surprised that the game is so hard and that people are
Mhm.
going to have trouble with it. I mean, they've been testing it for, they usually test the game for about a year before it comes out, so it's not nothing new. They knew it was going to be hard, so if they wanted to make it easier, they would have.
And like you kind of learn from the game in a lot of ways. I mean, you approach certain games differently. Like, for example, you're taking on these bosses, these challenges, and then there's a certain allure of that about mastering yourself against all these different bosses and just learning the way that they move and interact, and you learn their fighting styles and so on. It's like an accomplishment in a lot of ways, And there have
Yeah.
been all kinds of really highly praised quote unquote hard games in the past before, and they don't really ask for easy modes. Take Ninja Gaiden, for example, or Battletoads. Heck, I'll give you a really recent example too, and it's a game that I absolutely love. Cuphead. Cuphead, you got to spend, especially with certain bosses, like you guys put in your time and learn what shots work, what different kind of types of weapons work, and the movement and whatnot. You got to really put in your work into it.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it, though. And then when you finally beat that boss, it's like, yes, it's such an accomplishment. No, it's true though. Like, the thing is, the game is just so gratifying that way. You love the art style, you love it, you love the gameplay. It's just, and then when you finally beat that boss, it's an epiphany almost. So I can understand these people when they're like, well, just leave it the way it is, and how the game devs made it, because I don't know, like there's a lot to be said just for the game the way it is.
Well,
Yeah.
the counter argument would be like, well, you should, that's fine. You could still do that if you have a difficulty level, and you should make a game easy, so not only all of us can play it, but even people who aren't as people have disabilities, people have problems, that those people shouldn't be excluded. And I understand that part of the argument. But that's like something like what Microsoft done with the adaptive controller. That's a step forward. But in the end, again, it's kind of like, I don't want to bring politics into it, but I'm just draw a line there. There has to be, it's kind of like, what in government when they say keep government out, or don't tell people what to do, what you want. Once you start putting restrictions on developers, it's just not fair to them, in my opinion. They should be at liberty to make whatever game that they want, and if that game flies and is successful, it's up to them. If they want to make an easy mode, great, make an easy mode. But if they don't, you can't tell them to make an easy mode. That is not fair to them, in my opinion. And people will say, well, it's not fair to the people that can't get to play it. Like I said, take myself for example. I understand that the game is torture, or it's going to be that tough. So I respect it, and I move on. I play a game that maybe I would have a little more fun with, and I don't have to rip my hair out. I respect the developer's vision, and I think that with everything that goes on with developers, this is not a thing that we should be pushing on them.
Yeah.
I feel like in a way that we're way too hard on developers in a lot of ways, and just putting restrictions and having guidelines is just not the way to go, especially now.
Yeah, I'm personally, I mean, this is coming from like the artistic side of me. I am not a fan of telling creatives what to do, when to do it, so on and so forth. Going back to the whole Cuphead thing, this speaks, truths to me, because about a month and a half ago, I 100%ed Cuphead, and
wow, impressive.
that felt really amazing. Yeah. And I was super happy when that happened. I'm with Sekiro and all these different types of games that are harder than others. I don't personally go out of my way to play these games or play games if they have a hard mode on them, unless there's like an achievement or something behind it. If it is, then I'm definitely going after it. But when it comes to these games, I think I'm more in favor of something like how the Elder Scrolls or the Fallout games do, where there's they call it elastic AI, where the difficulty scales depending on your own character. And when games do that, I think that's probably the best approach because it's a middle ground. But like I said before, I'm not a fan of telling developers what to do. So if From Software's vision is to make these games hard, then I'm 100% behind it. If their vision is to make their games easier, I'm 100% again with it. The only time I'm not with easy modes in games is if it ruins the entire meta of a game. So, for example, with Forza Motorsport 7, the developers, I know this seems contradictory to what I just said, but the developers, Turn 10, added a friction assist to the game. And what this did was, usually when you drive a car off into the sand or the grass or anything that's not tarmac, it had a level of friction to it where it does slow your car down. But with this friction assist, you could literally drive across sand, across grass, anything that wasn't tarmac, and it would not slow you down whatsoever. There wouldn't even be a penalty to your handling characteristics. So in multiplayer, it almost ruined multiplayer completely because people didn't have to actually drive on the track anymore. They could just drive straight through everything. In that case, I don't think making a game easier would be good for a game because it almost hindered the entire multiplayer aspect of the Forza series. But I don't know. There's so many different things that I want to say on this topic where I'm like I enjoy games that are difficult if there's achievements behind them, and I'll go after them. But I think games that I've enjoyed the most, from Bethesda specifically, are the ones that have elastic AI where, it's, if you want to grind, you can grind. If you don't want to grind, you don't have to. Everything scales to your own character and how you set up everything. But, I'm usually behind the developers with their choice. And if From Software says that, this is their vision, then I'm behind it. I don't think, I think they understand the numbers that they're getting from their games sales wise. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think they care. I think From Software is looking at it, they're like, we know we can get more sales by making it easier, but I think they're content with what they actually have now. And, if they weren't, then they probably would have changed it to make it easier a lot sooner.
Absolutely. And, I wish them the best of luck. The game looks phenomenal. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not really huge on like the Souls types of games, but Sekiro has caught my eye. I wouldn't mind giving it a go sometime. And honestly, I hope that they don't change their vision for the games going forward because they make some really, really interesting games. And all right, moving on. It's never a good thing, guys, when game servers get shut down. And in a recent Sony announcement, it was stated that racing game Drive Club's content will be delisted in August and that the servers will be shutting down. The single player will still work, but not online, and actual Drive Clubs will not. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Does Sony just not see any interest in keeping the supposed Forza killer around anymore?
I mean, I guess it's sad for the fans if they want to continue playing online, but I mean, is there anyone still playing? So does it even matter?
Probably some people play this. I mean, the VR has only 3 years old, so
yeah.
I think there were people playing. I think that I don't think it's good when Invader said whenever they cut down studios.
No.
Especially after, I think it should be like 10 years. Considering you can actually play Forza 2 on 360
Well,
right now.
Evolution Studios, I think that's what the studio name was called, was shut down like a year or two ago, and they kept they had like a small team at Sony or some studio working on this, just remnants of the game, and now they're finally shutting down the online for it, which is unfortunate because the game, it's beautiful. And there is an allure to it. I mean, I'm sure that there's a Drive Club community, and the whole thing about Drive Club was these Drive Club communities, and now they're just kind of taking it away, unfortunately. Have any of you guys played Drive Club?
Never.
I didn't. I haven't played Drive Club, and I think from the beginning I've said that I didn't think Drive Club was a very good game, and my reasoning behind that was because I have had history with Evolution Studios in the past, from PS1, 2, and 3, and I've always been under the opinion that MotorStorm is the
we're losing Hyena.
IP. And this news, I went on a whole rant on Salty's podcast last Thursday about this.
Hyena, you're botting.
Oh, I'm still botting or not? Okay, somebody can take over.
It's all right. We'll get back to you in a moment. But the game just wasn't successful, guys, and it's unfortunate. Especially for a game, I remember at the beginning of this gen, it was kind of billed as a Forza killer. It was supposed to be a big game for them, and it just never worked out. It kept getting postponed after postponement.
It was supposed to be a free game, right? Or free to play, and then they ended up ultimately make you buying it. So
yeah, it was a mess from start to finish.
Yeah, it was a really unfortunate scenario there. It was supposed to be free to play, and then they announced, you had to buy it, like you guys were saying. And can we hear you, Hyena?
I might be okay. I'm not sure.
All right, we go.
Sound good.
Continue
sorry
on,
about
my
that.
friend. It's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, like last Thursday, I went on an entire rant on Salty's podcast for this topic specifically because I do have history with Evolution Studios. And like I don't like to pile on like bad news, whether it's Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, like whoever. But with this news, it gets under my skin because it's one less IP for me to get back into the PlayStation ecosystem. And like people that know me know that I have loved the Gran Turismo series for so many years now. It's unreal. And then same thing with MotorStorm. And it's like, well, you took MotorStorm away. You took Evolution away by shutting them down. I only have Gran Turismo left from you, and GT Sport wasn't the answer. It wasn't what it should have been. I think this news is very unfair to the people that did buy the game. A lot of the microtransaction stuff that you end up buying, what's going to happen with that? The whole basis of Drive Club was the online interaction clubs, and now you don't have the club part, so it's just very, very unfair to the people that ended up buying the game. I know some people are like, well, they delisted Horizon 1 and Horizon 2 years ago, and that's at 100% factual. But those servers are still on. You can actually buy, or you can actually go on to Forza Motorsport 2, 3, and 4, from 2007, 2005, 7, and 9, and you can play those games online still. They all still use, Xbox Live. I'm pretty sure that people were still playing Drive Club, even if it was a minuscule amount. There might not be more than 100 people at a time playing the last gen Forza games, but those servers are still there for them. With this situation, it might be a scenario of just penny pinching and just wanting to save money. with their servers. But I don't know if saving money in this scenario is worth the backlash that it did get briefly on Twitter and elsewhere. But it really is unfortunate, for the people that bought it for me, because now I'm never going to get a MotorStorm or anything from that studio ever again. It's annoying.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's unfortunate, and it was a highly touted game from them at the beginning of this gen, but, well, we'll see what happens down the road, guys. It's just never a good scenario when game servers get delisted and so on. Hopefully, people will be able to keep their content and so on. But moving on, and as the panelists speculated and talked about 2 weeks ago, Borderlands 3 has officially been revealed, and a reveal trailer was shown off at PAX East. It showed environments around Pandora, new villains, vault hunters, some familiar faces, and over 1 billion guns. And all of which sound pretty good for a new iteration of a game. However, some news outlets were stating that it looks disappointing, that it doesn't look like a game from this gen. So guys, I have to ask, have you seen the new Borderlands 3 trailer? What's your reaction, and are you looking forward to Borderlands 3 at all?
I've seen the trailer. It looks fairly decent. I've never really got into the series at all, but I am going to probably try this one more than likely. But I don't know what all the backlash is about.
Well, just the way the game looks, pretty much like. There was some articles, I think specifically from Polygon, that were blasting it for just not looking that Borderlands 3 doesn't look like a proper iteration going forward, that it looks a lot like Borderlands 2.
I find that really, honestly, ridiculous. When I saw that article, it reminded me of the whole, Crackdown 3 situation. I'm like, what are you expecting those games to look like? They have a specific art style to them. If they didn't look like that, they wouldn't be what they actually are. I wouldn't want Crackdown 3 to be something hyper realistic, because that's not Crackdown. Same with Borderlands. Like, sometimes I just wonder what goes on to the minds of some of these journalists with making articles like that. And I'm like, what are you expecting this game to look like?
Well, I think I've stated this before, guys. Like, I kind of got burnt out with Borderlands. Well, Borderlands 2 in particular. I really liked the first Borderlands, but in a way, I have to defend this game because I saw the trailer. I've seen it multiple times, and to me, Borderlands 3 looks fine. Like, I think it all comes down to what Hyena Den was hinting at. It's the art style. That cell shading just doesn't really lend itself over to graphics necessarily. Yeah. And yeah, Crackdown 3, like, it got the same problems a couple of months ago because people are like hounding it for the graphics, the look of the game, when it, like, to me, it looked all right. And
well, it's pretty hard with the cell shaded style. It's pretty hard to get a next gen feel. I just think that kind of speaks to the acumen of people that are journalists today. The same person would say that, but they're playing on 1080p TV. They're not on next generation console. There's so many things that you could say about them, but it probably sounded like a. I know the article. It did come off a little bit clickbaitish. I don't think we should draw so many conclusions over a trailer either, to be honest. I think far too much is done that, in both ways. Sometimes we, like Anthem. 2 years ago, I would tell you my most anticipated game of 2019 would be Anthem, and look at how it turned out. So I'm not really a big fan of the Gearbox developer, to be honest. I think I stated that on the show. They're just not. I'm not really a huge fan of them. But the series, if it stays true to its, its roots, is going to be cel shaded, and you're not going to get on something amazing looking cell shaded that's gonna, look like God of War 4. I'm sorry. And as a journalist, you kind of should know that. You should kind of maybe
Mhm.
not, blow the whistle on it so early. So I'm with you guys, or Hyena. It's just it kind of it does remind me of the Crackdown thing.
Mhm.
Just more or less with cell shaded games or those type of games. You're not gonna get that level of realism that you're gonna get from a game like Titanfall or Apex or Anthem.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, Tim. And the game has a release date for apparently September now, so it will be coming out pretty soon. But even just going through the trailer, there were some environments there that, even from a distance, they did look impressive to me. Like you had like a really futuristic city, which was really nicely lit up, and they they talk about having a billion guns with legs, and there's just some impressive stuff, in my opinion, showing up there. It's hard to tell from initial trailers, I'll admit, but I'm willing to give this game a chance. I give any game a chance right off the bat, even whether it be an Anthem or whatever. The developers just need to show me. So we'll see what happens with that, guys. Does anyone have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, so I was going to quickly say that I know that Microsoft removed the tab or filter or whatever it's called on their store page about this game, saying that it was going to be online co-op. I do genuinely hope that
Oh yeah.
co-op is a thing, or sorry, cross-platform play co-op. I really hope that this is a thing because Borderlands was something that me and my best friend used to just play for hours on end on our 360s way back when. He doesn't play on Xbox or consoles anymore. He plays on PC now. And if it is cross-play and he can play on his PC and I can play on my Xbox, I think that would be really awesome. And I'm hoping it's true. But I'm excited for this game nonetheless. I do find it kind of not cringy, but just funny in a way whenever they do their stats reveals for these games and they say, oh, it's gonna have a billion hours, billion guns, this and that, and I'm like, when you say stuff like that, I understand, like, it's not literally a billion guns, it's a billion different combinations. But like it's I look at the stat and I'm like, it is I understand what they're trying to do. It is shock value. And everybody looks at it and they're like, wow, that's amazing.
Oh,
Amazing. And I think with Borderlands 2 and 1 and
well, just a little bit. You're doing good now.
I might be botting. Oh. But yeah, when I looked at the stat, I'm like, I understand what they're doing, but I know nobody's ever going to get near not even a percentile of that number. But at the end of the day, I thought it was finally cool to see that it was revealed, and I'm excited for it because I really want to play with my best friend.
Well,
on this game again.
percentile would be what, 1 million. So they'd have to do 1 million combinations. I don't think that's happening. That's a good point.
A percentile of a percentile.
Yeah.
Well,
0.0001.
It would just be nice to have, like, because you have all these looter shooters out right now, and there's been some controversies, as we said, but Borderlands really encompassed looter shooter pretty well, in my opinion, and it would be nice to just have it back on the block again, right?
Yeah. One other thing that I thought was really cool that they said at their PAX panel was that you can now add scopes to your guns. So like if you picked up a random gun through loot in any of the previous Borderlands games, if it had a scope, it had a scope. You couldn't take it off. If you found a gun that didn't have a scope, you couldn't put one on. You were just stuck with that. So I do think that this added level to the customization is really cool and probably feeds into that whole 1 billion different combinations where now you can add scopes to almost to everything you want or take them off rather. So I thought that was really cool that you can now mess with scopes and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, I really want Borderlands 3 to do well. I guess we'll have more information coming, whether that be at E3 or in just down the line, but we have a September release date. It's coming out soon, and honestly, I wish it the best. We'll see what happens with that game. But moving on, now, about 2 weeks or so ago, the panel gave some thoughts in anticipation for the ID at Xbox Game Pass and Sony's State of Play. Now, those events have now come to pass, and we'll give our impressions on both. Now, just to recap the events a bit, both were relatively short. The State of Play had more Days Gone gameplay, Mortal Kombat 11 trailer, and a bunch of VR games. VR games like No Man's Sky VR, an Iron Man VR game, and some more concrete Genie gameplay. Now, the ID at Xbox Game Pass stream, it had a bunch of indie games showing off Killer Black Queen, open world game Outer Wilds, and Bleeding Chrome, and a look at After Party, and Operencia: The Stolen Sun, and a few more games, of course. And a bunch of these games are coming day one to Game Pass. Now, guys, what do you think of these streams? Do you think that they should continue doing them? Did you like any of the games showing off? Give me your impressions.
How about you go first?
Okay.
Yeah, Hyena Den, did you
I've went
catch any of
first
these
like 4
streams?
times.
Yeah, I did. I caught both State of Play and the ID at Xbox Game Pass one that they did. I do like the format of both. I do enjoy Inside Xbox. Don't get me wrong, but I think that some of their episodes have gone on longer than they should have. But I don't mind. I don't mind both formats. So even if if Inside Xbox was less than an hour, I'd be okay with that too, because I do like getting the deeper dives with developers and stuff like that. But on the same or on the opposite side of the coin, sometimes I just want a very condensed version of information thrown at me, and State of Play was just that. I wasn't necessarily a fan of the content inside of what State of Play was, because I'm not a VR person. But I do enjoy the format of that. With ID at Xbox Game Pass, I was really jiving with that show because, like I said before, it was very condensed and it had a lot of games I'm extremely interested in. I ended up doing a video on it because I cover a lot of Game Pass on my channel now, apparently.
Saw that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in a lot of games that they showed off there. First and foremost, Void Bastards. I cannot wait for this game to drop. There's so many just different cool games in there that did deserve to be highlighted. Like I said before, Void Bastards. I keep pronouncing this game wrong, apparently. Operencia. I keep saying Operencia, but I don't know how to pronounce this dang game. But I already have that downloaded on my Xbox, ready to play it and everything. Super excited for that. Outer Wilds by Mobius. Killer Queen Black looked really cool, and then After Party, a lot of cool stuff in that stream, and really excited to play all these games. I did like the format for both of them. I didn't like the content in State of Play, but I did love the content in ID at Xbox Game Pass. A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I like the format of both. How do I put it? I think I prefer the streaming to the actual live show, to be honest with you, because there's no dead air. Everything's kind of condensed, it's focused, and they just have everything back to back to back, and everything just it just seems a lot more, I don't want to say professional, but everything just goes a lot more smoother that way. I didn't mind both, to be honest. I did feel that the ID at Xbox Game Pass had more titles I was interested in, but there is something to say about Sony's State of Play too. I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot there. They showed off some VR games, but there is room for improvement. And guys,
Oh, yeah.
they could get better. That's the thing, right? It's their first show doing that, and considering they don't have any E3 planned, they may give it a month or two, it could actually get a little better.
Yeah, I think once around E3 timeframe and closer to PSX's timeframe, I do think that the type of content they will have in State of Play will be much better than what they first showed off, where it's not going to be as VR heavy. Not saying that VR doesn't have a place in it, because it does, but like I do think there's going to be bigger titles that they can showcase in their stream that can sit alongside, something like a Days Gone or Concrete Genie or anything else that they have with their first party or second party lineup. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And Concrete Genie, it looks like we've seen this title before, and it looks like a pretty interesting game. They showed off more Days Gone, and from what I saw, the game looks impressive. It comes out later in April, and I don't know, it just kind of strikes my fancy, I guess. I'm not really huge on the whole zombie thing, but I don't know, I kind of like the whole, you got a motorcycle, you can wander around an open world-ish kind of game. Seems kind of neat. And yeah, the Xbox games that they showed off, like Killer Queen and Void Bastards. Actually, it's funny you mention Operencia. I downloaded that as well from Game Pass. I played it. It's actually a pretty fun game, more traditional RPG, but it is a beautiful game, guys. If you're into more of the old school RPGs, definitely give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. It has an interesting story, kind of decent voice acting. I don't know. It's kind of lighthearted, and I'm really enjoying it. Tim, what did you think of the shows?
Oh,
boom, boom.
But yeah. I'm here. I just didn't want to, hear I have stuff in the background, so I had it on mute. So, my opinion is nothing Sony did with their show. There was nothing really wrong with the show. I kind of was hard on the show because I feel like whenever Inside Xbox comes on, and I feel it from both sides, from Sony fans and even Xbox fans, that they expect like world level, shaking announcements, and it's really not that type of show. And I feel like it always gets caught up to it in that, and then at the end of the show, everyone's like, "Well, that was garbage. What was this?" And they critique the show, and they get all crazy about it. Where sometimes they say maybe we shouldn't even have a show, or Xbox shouldn't have a show because this is negative. Now, this will be the last I talk about Inside Xbox, but the show has to be condensed into what your content is. So if you have an hour worth of content with developer, interviews and stuff, that's fine. An hour and 15. You don't have to make it 2 hours every time. That's just an oversight. That's way too much fluff. That's way too much overthinking the situation. You got to condense it down to be, an hour. Now for Sony, I felt like they did a very good job of, just getting straight to it and showing you what they had. Now, what surprised me about Sony showing was it was really heavy VR focused. And what that tells me is that, while Xbox is, doubled down on the cloud and Google's doubled down on the cloud, that Sony may very well be double downing on, double down on VR, and it's probably a smart move for them because they can corner the market, because they are definitely the market leader and they are leading the industry in that aspect. So I think that part of maybe not going to E3 and doing this type of venue or this type of show is because they can show off their VR and get it more seen, because you really can't show it at E3. Nobody wants to see it at E3. So I felt it was very VR focused. That was telling. They showed Concrete Genie, which I thought looked very good. Days Gone to me is not really catching my. I think it's going to be a decent game. I don't think it's going to set the world on fire. I don't think it's going to be a 90 Metacritic Metacritic masterpiece, that Sony fans
Mhm.
have gotten in the last, the last year. They've just been, I think it'll be a decent game.
I think it's gonna be closer to like Detroit.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. That's the way I feel too. But the overall show I felt was okay. I just don't think that people should expect much from these shows, whether it's PlayStation State of Play or Inside Xbox, and even in State of Play, I saw a lot of Sony fans and fanboys. They were critical of the show, and part of that's because there's no E3, but part of that's just because gamers are just insatiable. We just want the big announcement. We want Megatons in the middle of April. And we never get it, but that's just the way we are. We want that. And when you have a show like that, it's just hard to set expectations and have, its base be satisfied with those expectations, because most part inside Xbox and State of Play are going to be low expectations. And I feel what worked with the indie show, which Xbox had, was the expectations were very low.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that the show actually was well done. I felt they showed the games off well. I felt that they explained the developers very well. I'm very interested in After Party, drinking with the devil, and I thought that kind of concept was kind of cool. They showed some very interesting games, but again, the level of expectations on that show was pretty low, and I think that they matched that and they satisfied people. I just really feel like with these shows, just the fans of the show, that's both Sony and Xbox, have to realize you're not going to get E3 level, you're not going to get E3 level announcements. You're not going to get, something huge, in my opinion. You're going to get them for an E3 or a Sony show or Paris Games show for Sony or whatever Sony's doing, and or XO. I just feel like these are just going to be filler moments, and really that we have to go in with that type of expectation. And if we do that, these shows can actually be enjoyable, because it isn't enjoyable when everyone comes out and says, "Oh, Escape Room was horrible," which it was. And this is a joke. Xbox is a joke. No games, no games, no games. Like, come on, this is just a show in the middle of freaking January. So,
well, Sony's pulled out of everything pretty much, from Gamescom to their XO event to, even as everybody knows, E3. So I can see why they would want to do even just a smaller scale event at this point, or stream, just to like at least highlight games that are coming like very soon, whether it be indie titles or games that we already know about. Again, I think there is room for State of Play to grow, and that goes the same with Xbox idea Game Pass. Obviously, Xbox is promoting the heck out of the Game Pass and what titles are coming in. I actually really enjoyed their small segments with the devs. The devs talking about their games from the Outer Wilds and After Party. They seem to be really, really hyping up the game, as they should. And they just had a certain personality to them, and I really liked them to how they described and talked about their game and how it just kind of evolved.
Yeah, I like that too. I felt the Xbox, that show was actually done better than Inside Xbox. And it was much less scale. Nick Zulish and Chris Carla did a good job there, and the production value was good. Like I felt the same way. Like I felt when they talked about the developer for what is the name of it? The
After Party or Outer Wild?
After Party, yeah. The After Party was pretty cool. How they started out, and I like the concept of that game. I think it could be, it could be very cool. Is that game coming to Game Pass day one?
Yes,
I think
That's pretty
so.
nice.
They announced like 3 or 4 games that would come day one.
Yeah, I think there was 5 games that they listed that's coming day and date to Xbox Game Pass. After Parties, like the entire scenario of it is just, I find it hilarious. It reminds me of Beetlejuice. And like that entire concept, but it looks like a fun game.
No, it absolutely does, and I love the color palette to it as well. I mean, I like
Right.
all kinds of games, but I do like the way that it's kind of styled too. It's kind of different.
It
Um,
looks like The Last Night,
yeah,
by Tim Sorrett. That developer looks a lot like that. Which that game supposedly is an Xbox console exclusive. I wonder what that game is. That game looks very interesting.
well, it's kind of in development limbo from what I'm to understand. I'd have to do more research on
Yeah,
it.
no, Tim addressed that. Tim Sorrett, who is I guess he's the controversial creative lead on that game. So a lot of people don't like him. I think he did something. I don't know. It's something political, but I don't know
Hmm.
what it was. I didn't really investigate it because I don't really care. But his Twitter I actually follow, and he had addressed that, and he said that all those rumors are untrue. It's probably like you said, just probably going through a little bit of
Yeah.
developmental hiccups and hell.
Well, hopefully we hear about it soon or soon-ish, because the last time by E3 this year, the last time we would have heard of it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. From what I
Yeah.
understood, the publisher of it, I think they dropped it. So it was there. What's probably taking so long is for them to find a new publisher. So hopefully they found one by now. But no, that's definitely The Last Night. Like the art style, just the concept itself, I'm really interested in, and I really really want to hear more about that. So hopefully we get to see more of that at E3 for Xbox. That would be nice. Um, but you know, guys, we're moving to the sunset of this show, and now I think we're going to be talking about what games that we've been playing recently. Hyena Den, what have you been playing recently? What games have you beat anything recently? What's been on your console these days?
Oh, geez. Well, like I said before, I'm re-downloading, Fallout 4. Hopefully that should be done by tonight so I can replay that, rebeat it again. I recently beat Child of Light, which I really enjoyed that game years ago when I first played it. Very
Oh, you're bond.
It was a really good game by Ubisoft. Um, what else have I actually played? Obviously, I'm always on Forza Motorsport 7, doing online races. Just a little bit of everything, honestly. I don't know if there's anything specifically that I'll be picking up for the foreseeable future. But yeah. Oh, also, boy, I got back into Borderlands 1. I didn't pick up the Handsome Collection or the remastered one that they did, their Game of the Year. I didn't pick that up either, but I do have the 360 back compat version of Borderlands 1, so I decided to get back into that as well.
Oh,
So a little bit of everything.
very nice. Are you aware of the Forza group? There's a Forza racing group in the community. Are you a part of that?
By Sticks, I think.
Stick figure.
Yeah. Yes. I technically I am. We did a bit of racing in Forza Motorsport 7 a few months ago. It's really fun. I'm not as active as I would like to be within that community. But yeah, I'm almost on Forza 7 every single day playing online. It's just kind of one of the things that I do to pass the time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you mentioned Forza, how much you love it, and I thought I'd shout out Stick, and there's a wonderful group there of just racing fanatics there. Everybody wants to do some racing. Definitely check out Stick and his group. Send him a message.
They're really awesome guys.
Yeah, exactly. Megatron, we have you.
I heard my name, but I can barely hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask what games you've been playing recently.
Division 2. I want to apologize to everybody. I can barely hear anything. I don't know what's going on with my headphones. I think I need new ones. Apologies.
Oh, that's okay,
Sorry.
bud.
No issues. No problem.
Just some technical issues. No worries, guys. But hey, Division 2, that's a pretty awesome game. From what I understand, everybody's posting pictures of that. Tim Dog, what have you been playing, bud?
I have been playing. I just finished Devil May Cry 5, which I highly recommend. I think I talked about it last time. I was pretty close to it. The ending, while I finished it, was very impressed with it. Really old school type of, action arcade game with tremendous graphics, tremendous character variation. The story, which I didn't, skip through at all. I listened to everything. While it's kind of convoluted, it kept me interested. I love the characters from V to Dante to Nero to I forgot the girl's name in the bus, but whatever.
Nico?
Nico, yeah. They're all really memorable, and the way the game ends is memorable, and I highly recommend it. If you can get this game on sale, if you haven't gotten it, or if you see it and you really want to have a fun experience and like I said, it encompasses the visuals too. One of the better looking games this gen. Pick this game up, highly recommended. Really great game. And after I finished that, I started up a simple game called Gears, Gore, and Cannoli 2.
Oh yeah,
Which
Guns, Gore, and Cannoli.
Guns, yeah, Gears, Guns, Gore, and Cannoli 2, which I played the first and finished it, and it's a real simple game. And we were talking about accessibility and stuff like that. This game is a game that is very accessible and is very fun, and I love the character, and it's just an old school shoot 'em up 2D scroller type deal, which I really am enjoying. It's just simple games like that sometimes have a charm to it, and I really recommend this game too, especially the first one. If you're going to get it, get the first one and then get the second one. Both games are great, and that's about it. I started also Metro Exodus, which extremely good, like stunning graphics. I'm just not, I might have to replay it from the start. I played like, maybe 40 minutes of it.
Right.
And I don't know. Something is it just didn't grab me the way I was expecting it to grab me. But sometimes I've noticed when you play games when you're tired or if you're not in a great mood, sometimes that can alter your experience. And I fear that might be the case with this, so I have to give it another chance. One of the games that actually I had played Doom, I remember, and I played it like 2 in the morning, and I was just like, this game's not that. It's like, wasn't impressed with it. And then I came back to it, and I genuinely loved Doom. I finished the game, and, I felt like the first level was kind of crap, but other than that, I felt like the game was just like once you powered up and you got your abilities and really ratcheted things up, it was a really good experience. So I kind of got to give Exodus another go, but I wasn't really like I thought I was gonna really be taken in the game, and I don't know, maybe it's just the way it started off, kind of just with the story and all that stuff. I guess I got to give it another chance. And then I transitioned to Guns, Gore, Cannoli, and that's where I'm at because that game's simple and sometimes I just want to play games and not think, and that's basically what's been up with me.
Awesome. Well, don't give up on Metro because, funny enough, I just beat Metro Exodus about a week or so ago, and it is one heck of a ride. I really like the way things are in the game. Like, it's really different from the traditional Metro games previous. They really open up the world at certain points. You can get to go to different environments, and the whole train aspect is interesting, just traveling around. I liked it. I really enjoyed the game. There's a towards the end of the game, I'll admit, for those who have played it, I won't spoil anything, but I I kind of felt let down a little bit at the end. But overall, the actual experience of the game, it is really, really fun. What else have I been playing? From Game Pass, I played and beat What Remains of Edith Finch
Nice.
and Abzu. Both games I did enjoy, although I think I enjoyed Abzu a bit more just because it was a bit more colorful and abstract. What Remains of Edith Finch is fine. It kind of went by really quickly, in my opinion. It's a very short game, but it does have a very meaningful, impactful story for those of you that know what I mean. And as I've stated before, I have downloaded Operencia from Game Pass as well. And for those of you that enjoyed the traditional RPG, the old school RPG, this is for you. The game is really colorful. The world is just cool to explore. It's lighthearted in a lot of ways. It's just a good adventure. It's a very old school adventure game, and it harkens back to those days of dungeon crawling. And I'm enjoying it personally. I'll probably get back into it soon, but I've just got so many games on the back burner right now. As a lot of people know, it was my birthday yesterday, and I got two really
Happy
awesome
birthday.
games. Thank you, Tim. And funny enough, I'm just started playing Devil May Cry 5, and I know exactly the comments, what you mean, Tim. I like it. The game is beautiful. The story is pretty crazy. It's Devil May Cry, that's for sure. But but hey, you know, that's Japanese developers. They have really crazy storylines. But one thing I'm not too sure of, Tim, the pacing of the game at the beginning is like there's some shorter missions. Do they keep doing that throughout the game?
Yeah, the missions. There's about 20 missions in this, so yeah, some of the missions are longer, but yeah, some are short, some are, but there's 20. I felt fulfilled as far as the length of the game. I felt like it was just right.
All right, all right. No, I'm definitely gonna keep at it. I also got Ace Combat 5 on the back burner ready to go. I've been playing so many games. I should shut up right now. Oh, and also Stellaris too. I won that in a Twitter giveaway. It's a console RTS, space RTS, and it is surprising. It's very detailed, very engrossing, and I definitely suggest real-time strategy fans to check it out. I'm having a lot of fun with it. So a lot of games on the go right now. But guys, with all that said, we've come to an end of this episode of TXR, and thank you to everyone that stopped by to listen and participate in the chat. And before leaving, definitely hit that like button, give this video a good thumbing if you could, and subscribe for future content as we plan to keep coming back with future episodes and a heck of a lot more topics. And now on to the outros. First off, of course, Hyena Den, thank you very much for coming on the show. Where can everybody find you, bud?
Absolutely. It was awesome to be guesting on this show, and hopefully I can make a return.
Well, we'd love that. That'd be great.
Absolutely. You guys can find me every Thursday night on the Saltiest Gaming podcast and on Twitter at Hyena Den XBL and on YouTube and Xbox at Hyena Space Den. I just put out a video a few days ago titled The Xbox Game Studios Dream Team, and it is now officially my fastest tracking video on my channel. So thank you everybody for the support with that. And that is it for me.
All right, fantastic. Definitely check out his content, everyone. If you haven't already, there's some information in the description below to check out his channel. He produces some really great content. I've been following him for a while. Really great guy. Definitely check out Hyena Den. Mr. Tim Dog, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter, BeastfireTimDog. Pretty straightforward. Happy to be here, and that's where you can find me. Thank you, Hyena. Like I was telling you, I think pre-show or whatever that fan of your work. I checked it out. Yeah, and you do a good job. So
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, and keep making the content because you seem to have a good knack at it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate about Megatron and Southbound. They were both having some audio issues, but their information is listed in the description below if you'd like to follow them on their Twitter accounts. They're very lively on there, and of course they'll be back as well. And as for me, Invader, you can find me on Twitter at Invader_1986. And of course on YouTube, Invader Gaming. If you give it a search, look for the little robot guy. And yeah, guys, that's the end of the show. Thanks again for coming out. You've all been great. And don't forget to share this out. And with that being said, guys, take it easy. Bye-bye for now.